Good evening. Our Seroptimus Safari tonight is all about Seroptimus leadership, and I am super excited, thanks to the power of Zoom, to have two of my very favorite Seroptimists in the whole wide world here tonight. From Phoenix, Arizona, Alice Wells is here. You can see Alice waving her hand. And Alice wants you to know that she has learned more about leadership from her time with Seroptimist than with any graduate or postgraduate class she has ever taken, and that her experiences with Seroptimist have been a huge contributing factor in her success in the business world and in education. And Alice is a charter member of Seroptimus International of the Kachinas from April 1980 in the Phoenix and Glendale, Arizona area. She went on to serve time on the Golden West Region Board as secretary, governor-elect, and then governor before running for the SIA Board of Directors. Alice also served as the chairperson of the SIA Fund Development Council before becoming SIA president-elect, and then SIA president from 2008 to 2009. This experience led her to running for SI president-elect and then becoming SI president from 2011 to 2013. And her background is in education. She received a BS in elementary education and a minor in Spanish from Illinois State University. And then she taught in the Chicago area before moving to Phoenix. And she received a master's degree from Northern Arizona University and an education specialist degree from Nova University in educational administration. And she taught elementary school before becoming a curriculum coordinator, then a principal. And then after 6 years as a school administrator, she was recruited to become a regional consultant with a major textbook publishing company, where she spent the next 19 years with 3 major publishers as a sales rep, and then as a regional manager traveling in the 9 Western states, including in Alaska and Hawaii. And she was born and raised on a farm outside of Bloomington, Illinois, that was homesteaded by her great-grandfather, and she still owns that farm today. So welcome, Alice. It's so great to see you here on Zoom. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then it's also my great pleasure tonight to introduce Dawn Marie Lemons. She was our official visitor at the Northwestern Region Conference in 2019. And Dawn Marie lives in Tustin, California, and is a native Californian. She holds a master's in science degree in special education. She worked for the Department of Developmental Services for the state of California for 41 years in a multitude of capacities. She served as president of Seroptimus International of the Americas in 2017, 2018. And her other significant roles have included Desert Coast Region Governor, International Project Liaison for Project Independence Women Survivors of War, and International Program Director for Seroptimus International from 2007 to 2011. Dawn Marie has continued her work with fighting modern-day slavery, chairing the Aldersgate Abolitionist at our United Methodist Church in Tustin, and is a volunteer for the Global Center for Women and Justice. She loves being an auntie, traveling, reading, and entertaining friends and family. Inspiring others to join social justice causes, primarily for women and girls, is Dawn Marie's greatest joy. So thank you so much, Dawn Marie, for being here tonight.
Glad to be here.
All right. I'll go ahead and turn the program over to you all.
Okay. Well, I'll get started, and Alice and I are both thrilled to be here tonight.
Yes, we are.
And we love this theme. You know, we just I didn't have any safari getup, although I did go to Africa, and I think it's such a perfect tie-in with safari and leadership, because you know, when you go to Africa, it's a journey. There's a lot of unknowns. It's a little bit daunting because you're not sure what to pack, and but it has so many rewards. And Alice, what, you've been to Africa as well?
Sierra Leone, yes.
Yes.
Nairobi.
And the journey of travel of travel versus and leadership, you know, we were talking about that today, and you were saying, yeah, your suitcase doesn't show up sometimes.
That's right. Have to plan ahead, be organized.
And flexible when you're missing your knickers, right?
Absolutely.
So we love this theme, and we're both very honored to be with you. How we're going to run this event tonight is actually, we're going to start out in just a few moments, giving you a little poll, having you answer a couple of questions. We're going to, I had the privilege of starting the podcast series for SI for our 100th anniversary year. And the one person I didn't ever get to interview was Alice. So part of this conversation is going to be Alice and I having that podcast we never got to have, and talk about leadership. And then we will have times for you to engage. We'll be asking you questions and getting them from Catherine. Thank you, District Director Catherine. And then at the end, we'll have some time for question and answers. So does that work for you all? So
Good.
we all like to start doing our presentations thinking about what is the end in mind. What do we want to accomplish? What are the takeaways that we want to address in our conversation? So Alice, we made a list of takeaways. Could you give those to us? And while Alice is giving those, could you all, if there's nothing, if something we didn't address, please make sure you put it in the chat box.
Please do. That you as members will learn about some of the joys and benefits of being a Seroptimus leader. That you will understand that we each have a role as a leader in some capacity for Seroptimus. You will understand that we each have a responsibility to mentor and support potential leaders. In other words, be a safety net. You will understand that the future of Seroptimus is in building a solid leadership core of leaders. You will be equipped to be effective leaders through club, region, federation support, so we can achieve our mission for women and girls. So think about what the takeaways are you want for this session.
And we will come back to you in a few moments if you put those down. I don't think right now, we just presented our ideas, but we want to make sure that we address any specifics that, if we have time, that you have. And we're always available for talking to and emailing after the event, of course.
Absolutely.
So we want to start out with this online poll. I love online polls. If we're doing a Zoom meeting, we have 2 questions for you to answer, and we didn't think you could choose just one. So we're going to let you on each question choose up to 3 answers for what are the 3 best things for you about being a Seroptimus leader, and what are the 3 biggest challenges for you as a Seroptimus leader. So let's take a few seconds and do that quiz. You can get started now.
Don, the print's kind of small. Maybe you want to read it.
The first answer is learning new information about our program and being a leader. Second is getting a chance to serve in our organization. Third, using my skills and working with other leaders is to accomplish our goals. Traveling to different places. Making new friends through shared purpose, and the jewelry. That's question number one. And the second question, shall I go ahead and read those answers just in case you can't see them? Second question is the three biggest challenges for me as a Seroptimus leader: having to learn so much information, taking on the responsibilities, not having time to do it all, the expectation of having to travel or the financial obligations, maintaining a civil environment or handling conflict, and having to wear all of that jewelry and do the silly things like wearing safari hats. So answer those questions. And three answers.
All right, we have about 46%. Now we're up to 50. So we'll give it just a bit more time here.
I'll give you about 30 more seconds.
Okay, ending the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And could we see our results? All right. So, oh, using my skills and working with others is a biggie. That's great. The jewelry. Oh my goodness. I have a friend who always says getting the jewelry is the best thing about being a leader. She's a past SIA president, and I won't tell you who it is.
I was going to guess the current SIA president.
Nope, not her. Okay. So, yeah, they're traveling to different places was not a big high draw, but it is for some people actually. And you can see that learning new information is really inspiring, and getting a chance to serve in our organization is really a strong pull. And then of course, making new friends. Okay, let's go to the next one and see what the answers were there.
These are great answers.
I know, I love it. Do we have the answers for that yet?
Yes, are they not?
They're not showing.
If you scroll
think
down,
you scroll down.
Oh, okay.
Yes, try to scroll.
if not, we
down.
can read it for you too.
Yeah.
Yes, because I apparently clicked it off. So read,
Okay.
read the results for us.
Okay, I can read it here. So let's see. The top challenge was maintaining a civil environment handling conflict.
And what percentage was that? So
That
how
was
many?
64%.
Okay.
And then the second one at 52% is having to learn so much information.
Okay.
Then there was a tie in the third place, which was taking on the responsibilities and the expectation of having to travel / financial obligations at 44%.
Okay.
Followed up then by, I don't have the time required to do it all. And then the jewelry and silly things got 12%.
Oh, yes. Phew. Well, good. And it's interesting because some of the things that were the most attractive for leadership are also the most daunting. Is that right? And we're not all leaders in the same fashion. So I think that's one of the things that hopefully we address, just some strategies or ideas. We're obviously not going to solve every one of those issues. And honestly, if I were to ask Alice what her biggest challenge was, I bet it would be different than my biggest challenge.
Probably.
So I think that's one of the things that we have to really take on board, is that all leaders are not, we're not little carbon copies of each other. Each of us has our own resources, skills, abilities, and talents.
And we don't all start at the same point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get started with our little interview. And we're going to start out just kind of figuring out why the heck both of us became Seroptimists. So Alice, I know that you were a charter member of a club, which I just
Right.
think is so lucky. And you were a charter member of your SI Kachinas Club. And so what impressed you about this Seroptimist thing? Why the heck did you join us?
I was an educator. My husband was a principal at the time, and all of our friends were educators. So to go to this initial meeting and to meet an attorney, someone who was a manager with a title company, someone else who was a dentist, I was blown away about the wide variety of professions that were represented. And I wanted to know more. I was hooked from the minute I was there. And what really impressed me was that when they were asking for people to volunteer to be a chairperson until a president could be elected, to be a secretary, people were raising their hands and volunteering. Well, in education, back in the early 80s, that wasn't happening. No one volunteered for anything unless they had to. So that was the hook that got me to join. And I didn't look back from that moment on. It's been a pleasure. It's been wonderful. I have made lifelong friends, dear friends, and I wouldn't trade 1 minute of it for anything. It's been a great experience.
Absolutely. And I came into it through my grandmother, not
Yes.
through the umbilical cord, but she was a Seroptimist, and she kept asking me and asking me and asking me. And I just said, well, grandmother, I work with retarded people. We said that at the time. And that's my service. And she said, that's not your service. That's your job. That's what you get paid for. And so finally I went to a meeting, and just like Alice, I was hooked the first day possible. Here I am in this Newport Beach club, and they were talking about these 3 different international causes, and they were all digging into their pocketbooks, into their resources, seeing what they could do to help people they had never met.
Yes.
And their mission was so appealing. I thought, and they were from all different jobs. They weren't just from my
Yes,
profession.
exactly.
That was so cool. That was so cool. So that's what attracted me.
I
So,
had never heard of Seroptimus until I got that letter. My
wow.
husband had been in Rotary. He was a Civitan member at the time, but Seroptimus was a whole new ballgame for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you were a vice president for that charter club.
Yes.
And why the heck did you, I mean, jumping right into a brand new club, why did you sign up as a leader?
Well, the person who was voted to be president was a manager at Chicago Title. She was a go-getter. She raced cars on the weekends, a race car driver. She was so varied in her skills and in her interests. And I wanted to know more. And she is still a lifelong friend of mine. And I just was so impressed with the quality of the members who were volunteering, who were serving in different roles. And they were just incredible women, and
Yeah.
still are.
You know, I think for leadership for me, I was a member for 3 months, and then they asked me to be on the board, and I'm like, as if I knew a thing. And fortunately, that year they asked me to be assistant treasurer. And I just thought, you know what? The way you learn about what an organization does is if you're in the meeting room, if you're there with the leaders.
That's
And
right.
so that was so appealing to me because, you know, I went to that first meeting and they were using all these acronyms and all talking about all these places. And I'm like, what the heck? And I knew the only way I could really get a bird's eye view of it would be to be at the table. So
Right.
that's why I jumped right in as well. Okay, and all of you, we want you to think about your leadership experiences, because we know every one of you in this room has been a leader in some capacity, and each of you have different qualities as leaders. And we really want to investigate in yourself, what are the leadership qualities that you most admire in leaders? And what are the leadership qualities that you like to inspire in other people or notice in other people? Because one of the takeaways, as we said, is the mentoring and the supporting new leaders is one of our biggest and most important jobs, I think. So if you could take just a few seconds during this presentation, we will come back to that. Catherine, are there any inputs so far that we could present from the group?
So far, my question is in there. I haven't had anybody else ask a question. So if you want, you can kick it off with mine.
Okay.
So the questions I've been getting from the clubs in District 2 are, how do we get people to want to join the leadership or board in our club? We can't get people to take the leap.
Okay.
And it's not just in your, it's everywhere.
It is.
It's a universal issue.
Yes. Well, I think we'll give you a little, maybe I can just give a partial answer to that right now. I think often we present leadership as this ginormous, huge package. And we often appear to present it as something they have to do by themselves. And I think one of the joys and beauties of Seroptimus in leadership for me is that it is a team sport.
Right.
So wanting to do something partly has to be how much of the piece of the pie you're telling them they have to bake. Do they have to do the whole pie, or can they just do a piece of it? So I think we don't task analyze enough, and sometimes we abandon our leaders, and that's no bueno. We have to really, especially when it's a new person. We all have stories about that, but and then we won't go into every one of them. But I'm thinking right now of a woman taking on a leadership job. She was so excited, and we didn't tell her anything about her budget, and she spent $350 on something that had a $20 budget. But we never told her. We never told her the parameters of what she needed to do. So I think that isn't answering it completely, but Alice, did you want to relate to that a little bit?
I think laying out baby steps and being with them, holding their hand as they're moving up the leadership ladder, I think that's critically important, and giving them positive feedback on a job well done. That is so important, and it makes such a huge difference. Someone will work 3 times harder if they're being acknowledged for what they're doing correctly.
And even financially supporting them. Sometimes,
yes.
For me, I lived on a very small income, and it's not that I couldn't do something at all. I could do it partially, but if you could give me $50 toward a conference, then that might be the $50 that made it possible. And you know what? I told people, and I still do, I told people that I asked for help when I needed to do something. I said, I will be a great leader, and you need to help support me. So I think that's an encouragement we need to do as well with our leaders, is not make it be financially. A lot of people are embarrassed about it, but I think we need just to put it out front. So we're going to move on, and we'll come back to your questions later. Alice, you've had so many experiences leader for Seroptimus, and I just would love for you to give a few highlights that you've had as a local leader, and then also as an international leader, which is part of when we want to encourage you to be leaders. And so if you hear some of the bennies, some of the things that have attracted us, that might be helpful.
The first thing that comes to mind, friendships, the friendships that have come about as a result of being a Seroptimist. The person who was governor when I was first on the board has become a dear, almost like a sister to me. And she's in her 90s now and has dementia and is in a memory care facility. But I go to see her every 2 weeks, and she knows who I am and will introduce me to people. But this is so important for me to maintain that connection with her, and it helps her. So I think the friendships, not only locally, but internationally as well. Internationally, the very first trip to Japan, getting to visit our friendship link in Himeji, Japan. Himeji is a sister city of Phoenix, and our club took that club on as a friendship link. And I got to visit that club and actually meet all the members, stayed in a beautiful traditional Japanese inn, and got to meet the mayor. It was a wonderful experience, one I will always treasure. And I've been back there a couple more times since then. So you can't top all the experiences that you gain as a result of being a leader in Seroptimus, and doing this at the international level has been phenomenal
Yeah, I love
and
those.
life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think of my experiences just recently as a local leader, and one of the greatest joys I have is the new leaders are just carrying forward, and they're
Yes.
doing their job. And they actually had a meeting that I didn't attend and tell them what to do. Can you imagine that? And it was so lovely to be supportive of new leaders, to see their new ideas blossom, to keep my little mouth shut saying, we've never done it that way before, and to see their beautiful new technologies, new ideas emerge in a way and do it in a still on the same focus, the same mission, but they did it. And internationally, I guess, just my favorite, most wonderful experience was certainly leading the World Campaign for Project Independence, Women
Yes.
Survivors of War, and seeing your member enthusiasm. You supported specific women, you wrote letters to them, you sent letters of encouragement, you wrote to me and said, oh, you're going to Rwanda, can you meet Anna, or can you meet Zafran? And there was that belief, that understanding that we were supporting real people at the other end was so thrilling. And then to go to Rwanda and Bosnia and see our dollars at work in such a profound way. And you know what, those stories, what we do, if we just talked a little bit more about what we do in new stories of real people that we've impacted through Live Your Dream, through Dream It Be It, and through our international programs, people would be banging at our doors, I think, really.
That's true. I agree. I completely agree.
So one of the things that you all talked about is the challenge of time management. And Alice, I know you had a big old career, you had a big old family, and then the Seroptimus thing. So how the heck did you make it work? How did you, what kind of decisions did you make in that time of your leadership journey that helped you be successful?
At the club and region level, it was pretty easy because I traveled around the state during that period of time with my career. So I was gone frequently. So it wasn't a big deal telling my husband and my 3 sons, I'm going to be gone a couple of days. And they'd say, okay. So that was okay. But when it was time to go beyond that and do something with SIA, I did have to wait a while. The timing just wasn't right when I finished my governorship with Golden West Region. So, and it was worth the wait. So the time did approach and I was able to do it and it worked out. I won the election.
And you're very good at time management. You honor the assignments you take and do it well and communicate. And I think that's, you know,
That's critical.
There's responsibilities of leadership, and that's true.
That's very true. What about you, Dawn?
Yeah, well, I didn't have kids, so that wasn't a challenge for me. I did have a very, very big job that had me traveling around the state. And then for Seroptimus, particularly with Seroptimus International, I traveled quite a bit around the world, actually. But, you know, one of the things, and I really want you to think about this in yourself, are you a yes person? If somebody,
I am.
yeah, you're a yes person. And, you know, when people say, Dawn, would you like to do such and such? I usually say yes. And sometimes I don't discern, but I figure if somebody asks me to do something, that they see something in me that makes it possible for me to consider doing it. And I think that was, I approach leadership opportunities as some other great way of expanding my skills, of serving our organization and meeting other people. And frankly, I don't need a lot of sleep. and I work really, really fast. So, you know, those are some other little, everybody has their own little abilities and tricks, and I'm just not a big sleep person. So that's partly how I manage my leadership thing. And then finally, and probably the very most important thing I should have said at first, is I'm a twin. I was born an identical twin. And so I've always been in a team my whole entire life. So Soroptimist work is my jam. That's what we do. We do teamwork. And anybody that views it as a solo thing is missing a benefit, and they're depriving other people's of the benefit of sharing in that leadership experience as well. So you don't have to do it by yourself, and working in a team is so much more satisfactory. So another issue that people have brought up, and just in our last poll, is one of the reasons people don't step up is they don't want to deal with adults and managing keeping a civil environment and managing conflict and all that kind of stuff. So Alice, what are some of the important things that you think are important for leaders to know?
Be prepared. So have an agenda in mind and know what it is you want to accomplish. Be respectful of people's time, but still you have to be flexible. Be careful about the use of email. This has gotten more people in trouble than I can just, I know so many different examples of this. And deal with issues, not with personalities.
Yeah, you know,
so
that
if we could do these things, you'll have a smooth, easy time of it. Easier, I should say.
that email thing is just a mess, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
And my friend and I have this rule. It's the 24-hour rule. And if you get what you perceive as a snarky email, you wait at least 24 hours before you respond. Now you can't, very often what you perceive at a snarky email might be between your ears alone. Maybe somebody didn't even intend it to be. That's just how they communicate. That same friend and I have a rule that if I say the 24-second rule, that means call me right now because I'm pissed off. And so the 24-hour rule is the one I tell to Soroptimists, but keep that 24-second rule in your mind.
True. And Donna, it's really important that people do what they say they're going to do, and that leaders need to know what's expected. And if they're not clear, get clarification. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask for help in a timely manner and thank people who help you, and know what to do when someone hasn't followed through. This is, I think, a big issue with so many clubs. Someone doesn't follow through, but you have to be able to step in and know what to do to take over.
And that's kind of an issue for presidents, particularly, is if you give Nancy a job, you got to make sure that Nancy knows what her job is, right? And who her supporters are and what her resources are. So that follow through by the leader to the followers is also really, really important.
And be non-threatening, be kind.
So what do you guys do if somebody doesn't follow through on something? Do any of you have any really good ideas or suggestions?
Yeah, share them with us.
Put those in the chat box, because we'll come back to those. That telling adults something that they don't want to hear is always a tricky thing, but not telling them is worse than, not following through. Ignoring a problem does not make it go away. And that's if you're a leader, then your responsibility is really to have the, as my friend Alice says, pull up your big girl panties and do your job. So I'm going to just give a few other tips that have been really important. In our region, we have the Club Solution Advisor Committee. And we're available to the district directors and the clubs and the governors, of course, to assist when there's a club that has an issue. And one of the things that I've noticed so many times when I've been called to help in a club is that the answer to the problem was right in the bylaws or procedures of the club. They actually had the solutions right there. So the very first thing I do every time there's a problem that isn't a personality problem is I say, okay, what does your procedure say about that issue? And is that still relevant? Because sometimes the procedures are old and aren't relevant for today's issues at all. So, and know who your resources are. I think that, we can't say anything more often, can we, Alice, about resources or people. They're local people, they're region people, they're other members, they're SIA, there's products that you have. You don't have to do it alone, but you do have to know that there are resources available for you to help get through a sticky wicket. And then also your resources need to be contemporary. I know there are some regions that aren't sitting in this room right now is that somebody will have a history of, we always did it this way in the past. And that's no longer how, well, when we did training award program, which is then when we did Women's Opportunity Award program, when we did, now it's Live Your Dream program. Everybody has, sometimes people, if they haven't been able to keep up with everything new, and who has, they just don't know what the current rules and regulations and resources are. So that resource thing is always really great. One of the things that's really important to me as far as club success is establishing your own club ground rules. Every year, hopefully you're having a planning session every year.
Mhm.
And at that planning session, you're deciding what are our rules of engagement, because it should not be up to the president to have to be the gatekeeper or the disciplinarian or the snarky person. It should be up to all of us. And civility is everybody's responsibility. And it shouldn't be handled publicly unless it must be. But I think very often the other members don't take responsibility for the civil environment as well. And remind everybody, you know what, I can't hear, just can one person talk at a time? And, that kind of facilitative stuff that would be helpful. It's important for leaders to have a safe environment, for our members to have a safe environment. They'll come back if they feel safe, respected, valued, and that they're doing something important. So that's up to us as leaders to make sure that that environment is safe. And you know what? The most important thing is keeping our eye on the mission. When things get off course, a little prompt about what is it that we want to accomplish is so important. I remember we were having this really difficult conversation with the club that just was not getting it, and they just were in trouble with each other. And one of my friends that was the governor at the time finally looked at these ladies who had just been bickering, and she said, what do you think the women in Rwanda would think about the conversation we're having right now? The women that we're trying to help. And I think sometimes reminding us that our work at the table is about the work we're doing for women and girls, right?
Right.
And that other stuff is stuff. So we are getting to the end. We just want to finish before we ask you to ask us some questions. We want to look about Seroptimists of the future. And Alice and I had a really good conversation about, we can imagine that today, 101 years ago, or 100 years from now, we hope that the mission of Seroptimist is still the same, that we're still doing good work on behalf of women and girls. And that's the most important thing. But we do think that how we do this will change. and they must change. They have to, we're certainly not doing business the way it was done in 1921. So Alice, what is your vision for Seroptimus leaders? What will be different in the future for Seroptimus and specifically for the leaders?
Taking into account new technologies and ideas. Think, ladies, what would have happened 3 years ago if we didn't have Zoom when the pandemic hit? We would have lost so many clubs. And just think about that piece of technology saved so many clubs from disbanding. It's amazing. So we have to stay on top of things. We have to be more diverse in every way in terms of age, ethnicity, and experience. We have to be more flexible and inclusive of new ideas. We will continue to work for issues that impact women and girls, and more people will know us, so we won't be the best kept secret, like I feel we still are, unfortunately. Dawn, what's your vision?
Yes, I see Seroptimus as through our focus on empowerment and enabling and education of women. I see our focus needs to be as broad as women's issues are. I think it's great that SIA has refined the focus to economic empowerment, but frankly, that doesn't embrace all the issues that really affect women and girls. And I don't want a limited perspective to limit our influence and our outreach with women. I love it that you're doing a violence against women award in your or project in your region. So I hope that we continue to expand our work with and for women, so that it's inviting to people to join us and that we can influence and affect more women. I hope that we are always known as a service organization.
Yes.
That our members know we're a service organization. We are not a philanthropic organization, guys. We are a service organization. That's what we were founded as. And sometimes it feels like all we're being asked for is money, money, money.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is most of us get our bennies from the work we do with and for people, and the results that we see with and for people. So I hope that all of us hold that banner high, that always have opportunities for people to engage with the women and girls that we serve. And I want us to be more international. Our name is Seroptimus International of Newport Harbor area. And I want us to continue to be curious about not only what's happening in our community, but the community at large of the world, and where we can help our sisters in Turkey and in the Ukraine. It was just amazing how much effort came through helping in the Ukraine, and still needs to be. And of course, in Turkey, we have sisters there that need our help. And you know what? I think Seroptimus leaders know a lot. I'm talking about you members. And so my SIA of the future is SIA leadership includes a lot more Seroptimus members doing the training and not just headquarters staff. They're very talented, but you all are at the coalface and you know what's happening in your clubs. And to answer your question, if all of those things happen, I think more people will want to be leaders, and they will want to be part of the team that really makes a difference for women and girls. So that's our idea of Seroptimus in the future, and we're looking forward to hearing your questions and hopefully be able to answer some of them.
So Dawn Marie, you asked about what people saw in a good leader. So we've got a good mentor as a role model, teaching, supporting, and cheering you on. We've got a good leader as someone who will actually work beside you rather than just direct you, like get down and get in the dirt with you rather than say, I can't mess up my clothes to help you.
That's great.
That was a good one. We were talking about what do you do if someone doesn't follow through when you ask them for help or a project. We talk about agreements, and when we make an agreement, I say, okay, to be clear, we said X will be done by Y, and then you make sure to show appreciation for a job well done. And then we talked about in our region, we have a term, mean girls. So we talked about mean girls and how do we keep things civil in our club meetings. And so one rule that I have seen used is the think rule, which is it truthful, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? Then contribute it.
I like that.
Are there any other questions that haven't made it into the chat yet? If you're wondering how to use the chat, there should be a button at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a little bubble. If you hover down there, if you click there.
To raise their hand even now and
Yeah.
ask a question.
So we have another comment. A good leader is a consensus builder.
Yes.
Good one.
Catherine, is there a way to share those comments in the chat box with Dawn Marie and me?
I bet Governor Karen knows how to do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love that think role. Every time
I
go
love that.
to a Seroptimist event, I learned something new that's a takeaway.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think a good leader keeps getting educated. And I last night, I'm doing a book study on human trafficking for with the United Methodist Church. And a couple of my friends wrote a book, and it's really wonderful. And we're doing a book study. And the people at the book study, 4 of them were over 85 years old.
Wow.
And I just thought, holy smokes. I was just, and many of them said, gosh, they had never heard some of these things, but there they were, perky at 8:30 at night, talking about something they were learning about that they would then pass on to people they knew. That curiosity, that need to keep learning and going on safaris, that's terrific. That's what we've got to include and support our leaders to do.
We've got another comment. If you have a member who said she was going to do something and there appears to be a problem, ask them if there's something you can do to help with the task.
Good.
Thank you, Kathleen. That's a good one.
It's I like that input, Catherine. There's certain things. Do you all have things that you just hate doing, that you just that's a part of the leadership job, and you just think like photocopying and collating? Ew, I just don't like doing it, and it has to be done. So in my earlier days, I just thought if I hated to do it, everybody hated to do it. And you know what? Some people were just so happy to do that part of the job. You know, so if you task analyze something and put them in little chunks where everybody can help. I love writing thank you notes. And I love that. I think they need to be sent. So if there's something that needs a thank you note, I'll volunteer. And I think those are the kind of ways we have to look at assignments, is make it be inviting, not daunting. Any questions?
I liked what you said about breaking tasks down, because I think that it can be overwhelming if someone comes to you and says, I need to be on the board. And you're like, I don't know what that means. Right? That sounds really important, and it sounds like something I should do, but is it going to be like 17 hours a week, or is it going to be, you know, breaking it down into, this is the role I think you could have, and this is how you could do it. I think that's important. I appreciated that point.
Yeah, and Alice made a point earlier tonight that we don't all enter at the same skill level. So when I joined the board as a 3-month-old Seroptimist, I was a baby, right? And so I absolutely did not have the skill set that the rest of the board did, but they supported me. They helped me do my job. And so we have to make spaces for babies to enter and do their job successfully, give them acclaim, and then teach us what they know. They may have a way with their technology that was way better than I ever imagined, which is probably true.
I have a comment question. help. We have a current member who is a pot stirrer, and we resolved an issue some time ago, but this particular member keeps reintroducing the issue and stirring the pot once again, and it's very difficult to figure out how to help her realize that, okay, we already solved this problem. We're moving forward in this direction. Can you let it go, please? So any ideas are most welcome.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Alice, do you want to jump in?
You go right ahead and I'll add,
Okay.
I'll piggyback on what you're going to say.
Yeah, one thing is having notes of decisions and making in your ground rules saying once decisions are made, that's unless there's some new information, then that decision is done and you move forward. So if at your ground rules you say, you know, decisions will be made by the club and problems will be resolved, and once they're resolved, it'll be communicated and then you're finished. And so having a record of decisions is a good thing, because you can say, oh gosh, yeah, Nancy, maybe you weren't at that meeting in January where we resolved that. So, you know, if you can look at the January minutes, that was done, that was handled. So I think, you know, sometimes you have to have the benefit, and then pot, you know, every club's going to have pot stirrers. And one of the things Alice has said tonight, and I hope I have, is keep the focus on the issue, not on the person or the personality. So it's like, well, yeah, I mean, one of my favorite phrases is, thank you for sharing that. Yes, that's a good reminder. And then move on, just move on. We've got a big agenda. Let's move on. So, and Alice, did you have anything else you wanted to contribute?
And having a one-on-one or maybe a two-on-one conversation with that individual, sometimes that's needed to be done. The person who's the strongest personality in your club would be the ideal person to do that.
Yeah, we had a member who had a little snarky face, and she would do eye rolling and that kind of crap, you know, at the meeting. Have you ever seen that? And our president is fabulous. She is so good, but it kind of hurt her feelings, you know? And so I know that person really well, and she admires me and I admired her. And I said, hey, were you unhappy with this particular thing? And she goes, no. And I said, well, you know what? You were rolling your eyes and kind of had a crabby face. And she said, oh, I know, I have that problem. I said, well, stop it.
Not much of a poker player, are you?
She says, well, I can. I said, oh yeah, you can. We all are good at managing our faces. You have customers and clients, so you can do it. So
Perfect.
sometimes a person that knows somebody can just say, you just need to stop that, because she was feeling insecure because of that. Oh, well, I
That's
would never
good.
want that. Well, no, I mean, she didn't want the president to feel that way at all. She really didn't. It wasn't about the president, it was about her own boredom.
So we have another question from the group. How do you handle a member who is negative? It's kind of building on that idea.
I've got all these rude answers in my mind.
You're being recorded.
Oh,
I think, again, a one-on-one conversation with that person.
yeah. And to be honest, the safe space has to be for all the personalities too.
Yes.
There's some people that are just negative. That, I mean, I could say it a different way, but they just are. So catch them doing something right. Is always my favorite thing. When somebody, you know, that it tends to be negative and they say, oh, Karen did a good job. And it's like, oh my gosh, that was so great, Nancy, that you said that Karen did you know, just really emphasize the times when they do it right, and make it a safe space for them, but don't let them bully somebody else. I mean,
Right.
the bullying can't happen. Civility has to be protected, and everybody has to be protected. So negative, it's like, okay, well, let's move on. Thank you for sharing. I don't know. I mean, it's just a reality. And a lot of people that come across as negative, they don't perceive themselves that way, really. They think they're realists, they're analysts, they're just, I have a pastor that is a devil's advocate. And so I've been working with him this year on just front loading. And that's another way. Oh, if you have a person that will be negative, you get the pony in your court, you court them, you go talk to them saying, okay, now we're going to be having a discussion about that fundraiser. And I know you always have some really good ideas and opinions. So what are some things I need to consider before the meeting? So you can preemptively, I had a very negative member in our club who was the oldest member, and I was brand new president. And so I just made her be my best friend. She accompanied me wherever I went. I always asked her opinion and loved on her, and she neutralized it a bit. She was still herself, but she wasn't, because I took the extra time.
One comment says, I asked them for their pros and cons on the issue and their solutions.
Good.
Very good.
Yep.
Next question, how do we go back to our club and get everyone excited about being a leader without intimidating them?
Well, I think you do it a couple of different ways. You do a general announcement saying, and maybe actually one really cool thing to do is to go around the group and just take time to have people say what was their best time being a leader, what were their joys, what were the benefits they got in being a leader. So I love doing those little polls with my club and I call it the 1-minute lesson plan, and just stopping the process and getting input from everybody on what do you think is a cool thing about being a leader. So setting it up that way. And then the mentorship, the reaching out to people, that saying, Chris, I've seen that you are so good at organizing and facilitating things, and I know you have a lot on your plate. Is there something that maybe I think this job on the board might be one that you would do super well, and I'd be, do you have any interest in it? Is there anything I could help you with to do it? But I think that one-to-one, honestly, I don't think half of the positions I've held I would have done if somebody hadn't said something to me and asked me, invited me to the table.
It's that one-on-one conversation that can make all the difference in the world.
Well, we're kind of at the end, and we want to kind of end with the takeaways that we gave you were kind of the global takeaways, but we wanted to end with personal takeaways, because at the end of the day, every year I'm a brand new member. When I pay my dues, then I have committed to being a member this year, a new member. And that means I will take on learning something new. I will take on supporting somebody, the other leaders, and I will take on leading something myself. That's the assignment I give myself. And it's a contract I make for my Seroptimus membership every year. And so I really invite everybody, we're going to send our notes to Governor Karen, but ask people, what does your personal journey as a Seroptimus look like? I really had no idea that I would ever have a personal journey to be SIA president, and certainly not program director for all of SI. That wasn't part of my plan. But as people are curious, as you see opportunities, then things emerge. What does your club's leadership bench look like? So who can you get to work together that will support each other? And I think it's not just about the one person, it's often the team that is really the important factor. And what excites you about being a leader for Seroptimus? And really, who do you know that could be a leader that you could mentor or invite to that? And what are your next steps? Where do you go next? So I think that's it. Alice, did you want to add something at the end?
I really appreciate all of the feedback you've given us tonight, and I hope you've taken something away that you can take back to your club that will make a difference. So good luck with your leadership building skills.
Thank you so much, Alice and Dawn Marie. It's been fabulous to have you here this evening. And we've all gained so much from your time with us. Great time to process everything that's been said tonight. So
Great.
really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Our pleasure.
Best wishes. Happy conference.
Yes.
All right.